We have some really interesting news coming out here. The Raiders obviously had a bye week. Coming out of the bye, they are signing a wide receiver who was very explosive while he was with Geno Smith in the Pete Carroll scheme specifically. Tyler Lockett is joining the Las Vegas Raiders. Tom Pelissero puts it out there. It's a reunion for Tyler Lockett, Geno Smith, who are essentially getting back together. And I want to talk about this because do I think Tyler Lockett makes the Raiders more explosive on the offensive side? Absolutely. Tyler Lockett is a guy who had a lot of success. Now, I understand, he was 33 years old, so he's not technically in his prime anymore. And he's now, this season struggled a little bit. Was with Cam Moore, rookie quarterback, understandable. But even last year, he struggled a little bit, right? He didn't have the type of stats that he had the 4 previous years before that, where he went for over 1,000 yards for 4 straight seasons. Tyler Lockett, to me, is a really interesting player to kind of bring in because the Raiders, we've essentially said, hey, Geno, you're going to get a guy in Dont'e Thornton who should be your Tyler Lockett, right? This is going to be the guy you can throw up those deep passes to, and it hasn't really worked out. Dont'e Thornton struggled, got benched at some point, got replaced by bech, and now we're bringing in Tyler Lockett, who, he's not like Jakobi Meyers because I think Lockett's more of a deep threat and Jakobi's more of a short and intermediate type of threat, right? That's kind of where Jakobi does most of his damage. But with Tyler Lockett, you're bringing in a guy that can now go deep, that could potentially open it up. Now, Geno Smith has struggled, right, especially on some of the shorter passes. But Geno Smith has in the past found success with guys that could run those deep routes and run those deep concepts. And I think the one thing with wide receivers, if you're a wide receiver that uses a lot of your, your route running abilities, I think at 33, you slow down a little bit. So if you're a route runner type of wide receiver at 33, you're going to struggle to still run and be as sharp in your routes. If you're a wide receiver who, let's say you are, you're the type of wide receiver that's just bigger than everybody, right? You're 6'5", you out-jump guys. When you're 33, you're not going to jump as high. You're not going to be as quick. You're not going to be able to make those plays as consistently. If you're a guy who has speed, and we've seen this with multiple guys that have speed, Tyreek Hill's still technically doing it. I know he got hurt, but Tyreek Hill is still having success. Deshaun Watson came to the Raiders and made a couple of really nice plays when he got up there in age as well. Speed's one of those things where, sure, you might slow down a little bit, but if you can still, if you're a deep threat, you can still always kind of be a deep threat, even as you get older, because you're not going to be running 60 routes trying to run 2, 3, 4 yard routes. You're going to be running deep, essentially, or you're going to be running deep concepts. And I think the Raiders have struggled a little bit right now with those, those type of opportunities. And I think it's been the biggest reason why the Raiders offense hasn't really worked is because we haven't been able to generate enough explosive plays downfield. Now, keep in mind, Brock Bowers has also been hurt for this entire season, and that makes a huge difference. From what I'm told, the Las Vegas Raiders offense this season was going to rely on a lot of deep opportunities to guys like Brock Bowers, to guys like Dont'e Thornton. And obviously Thornton being raw and not developed fully, that kind of hindered the offense that the Raiders could have potentially had. And then on the other side of it, obviously Brock Bowers gets hurt. So your deep threat opportunities are kind of gone with those two guys. And they've obviously tried with Trey Tucker, and it just hasn't worked perfectly with Tucker, right? You obviously had a bad offensive line to start the season. The Raiders' O-line's a lot better now, but like the first 3 to 4 weeks, it really struggled, right? Now you're bringing in Tyler Lockett, so hopefully the Raiders can open up some explosive opportunities downfield. I think it could absolutely change the Raiders' offense to be able to do that. Now, another thing we do have to keep in mind is Jakobi Meyers still has technically requested a trade. And right now, according to Adam Schefter, the Raiders are willing to keep Jakobi Meyers despite his trade request. So Adam Schefter actually believes, right, 100% believes this, that the Raiders will keep Jakobi Meyers, even though he's made it clear that I don't want to be with the Las Vegas Raiders. To me, that's interesting to kind of think. Because if a player says, I don't want to be on a team, usually the team moves off that player, right? Usually. And right now, that's kind of not the case. In fact, the reason why the Raiders have not moved him, and this is what Adam Schefter is saying, is that even though Jakobi Meyers requested the trade, the Raiders would deal veteran wide receiver only if they felt they were getting strong value in return, sources tell ESPN. With the NFL trade deadline approaching, a trade offer of that nature has not materialized, according to sources. So essentially, the Raiders are saying if they felt they were getting strong value in return, they would essentially trade Jakobi, and at this point, that has not happened. So no one has said, we'll give you a second-round pick for Jakobi Meyers, a third-round pick. Like, we're not willing to give that to you. So the Raiders decide that, hey, we'll rather just keep this guy. Now, I'm not sure if the Raiders are just putting this report out. They're using Adam Schefter to put it out, maybe drive that value up a little bit. If you trade Jakobi 2 weeks ago, he's a 7th round pick. If you trade him right before the trade deadline, you might get a 5th or a 4th, right? Or a little bit higher potentially. But I find it interesting because you're bringing in Tyler Lockett and you're essentially saying Jakobi Meyers, we're looking to obviously move off of him. I think the Raiders will trade Jakobi, right? I think most general managers understand, if a player requests something, you make that happen. Right? Tyler Lockett requested that the Titans release him, and they did it. If Jakobi Meyers is requesting a trade, the Raiders, I think, will probably end up doing it. But we'll see if it actually ends up happening, right? We will see if the Raiders fully end up trading him. Honestly, I think the Raiders should keep Jakobi. And, I've said this. I wouldn't be mad if we traded Jakobi, but if the return was only a 5th round pick, just keep the guy and give him a raise this year, man. Give the guy $10 million more this year. You have the cap. It makes sense just to go forward and do it. And here's the thing, right? If the Raiders now have Tyler Lockett, you have Jakobi, you have Trey Tucker, Brock Bowers is back. Those 4 guys are all pretty good football players. I think your offense could actually be better as we go forward. And I don't know how many more games we're going to win, truth be told, right? I've seen the updated report of the draft tankathon and kind of where everybody's picking right now. I think the Raiders have pick 6 or 7. We're only 1 game out from essentially having that first overall pick. But here's the thing. If the Raiders are going to keep Pete Carroll, if the Raiders are going to keep Geno Smith, and those 2 guys are your future, then you want to win games as you go forward. You want to be consistent. You want to be able to do things where you can do and then carry over into next season. Because if the Raiders only win 3 games the rest of the season, you have the 4th overall pick, it's not guaranteed you're going to take a quarterback. And I understand getting an offensive tackle or a wide receiver or a defensive end or a defense. I know that makes your team a lot better. But are you better only winning 2 or 3 games this year? Or are you better winning 6, 7? You win, you have 8 games left, you win 5 of those last 8. Are you better off doing that going into next season? You have more, momentum going into next season. Guys are bought in more. If you win 3 games, guys are not going to be bought in as much, right? Your free agency period might not hit the same. So this is one of those things where the Raiders are going to have to think about it. How do you kind of go forward? And again, keeping Jakobi, Tyler Lockett's here. Brock Bowers will be healthy, right? Brock Bowers already technically practiced in full. The Raiders could actually have success as we go forward. Now, the offensive line does have to play a lot better. And I think that's going to be the one key for the Raiders. They got to play better. We're obviously not going to make any switches at this point, all right? JPJ is not going to go to center. But you can keep JPJ at right guard and you can still technically have success. But you got to be consistent, and it starts right there. If the offensive line plays more consistently for the Raiders, you can actually have success. But as we're talking about consistency, did you guys know that it has now been 4 straight months of me exercising pretty much every single day? And a big part of this is the recovery element. A lot of people don't realize how important hitting your protein intake is to be able to recover, which is why I partnered with Transparent Labs. These guys right here have made it so much easier for me to hit my daily intake goal when it comes to my protein. And to be 100% honest, guys, so many of these protein companies out there are filled with artificial fillers and junk ingredients, but not Transparent Labs. I'm telling you guys, these guys do it the right way. Their grass-fed whey protein isolate has made it easy for me to hit my protein intake in a clean and natural way. It contains only a handful of high-quality and natural ingredients, with each serving bringing you 28 grams of high-quality protein that's sourced directly from grass-fed cows. And if you're interested in giving Transparent Labs a try right now, is a phenomenal time, because for a limited time, they're giving away a free starter kit. So you'll get this shaker bottle and a variety of single serving flavors in their top flavors. Make sure you guys use the link down in the description or the QR code that you guys see on the screen for 10% off. Thank you again to Transparent Labs for sponsoring this video. Let's get right back into the content. There's another really interesting report that is coming out. This one's coming out by Jay Glazer, who is a really, really good insider. To me, I think Jay Glazer is one of the best insiders. He never reports things that aren't true. I don't even know if that's the right word, but he always reports things that always end up being true, right? Or at least it's insight that it is true, I should say, right? So Jay Glazer basically goes on Fox, and he was asked a couple different things. One of those things he was asked was about Maxx Crosby, and obviously we heard the report this past week that teams are inquiring about Maxx Crosby. And then we heard the report a day later that even though teams are reaching out about Maxx Crosby, Tom Pelissero put it out there that, hey, the Raiders have basically said they're not going to move Maxx Crosby. Now we got a little bit more detail, even a step higher. And that is that Maxx Crosby has made it clear he does not want to be traded. Listen into this, and we'll talk about this on the other side.
Hard no from the Raiders to Dallas.
So the Raiders told him they're not moving him, but also Maxx Crosby said, I don't want to go anywhere. Okay. And there was one team who called me and said, hey, could you find that? And I told him, no, Max said he doesn't want to go. And the team said, man, we love him because his loyalty. We wish he wasn't, though. We'd have a shot.
All right.
So there you guys have it, right? Maxx Crosby is obviously making it clear that he does not want to be traded. He does not want to go anywhere. And I think this is important for the Raiders to recognize. You know, if Maxx Crosby wants to stay with the Las Vegas Raiders, he should be here with the Raiders. You should not look to trade him. Because I think at this point, you know, if your whole idea is that, hey, we're going to fire Pete Carroll at the end of the season, we're going to release Geno Smith, and we're going to get all the assets we can possibly get by getting rid of Max, by potentially moving off some of the other pieces we might have, right? The Tyrees, the Butlers, you know, even on the offense side, JPJ, right? Move off all these guys and then bring in all the draft picks. You're essentially restarting what you could have done before the season begun, right? Like you didn't have to bring in Geno Smith. You didn't have to pay some of these guys that you paid. You could have moved off of them at that point and it would have been a lot more flexible and Mark Davis would have saved a lot more guaranteed money. But the fact that the Raiders made all these investments and they're trying to win and they're obviously trying to also like reshape the team, right? Because we're going from a old era of football into this new era of like this John Spytek, Pete Carroll era. In order to be able to get to that point where you're able to like actually have success, you got to make those changes. And I think for the Raiders, we're at the point where if you trade Maxx Crosby and you restart, again, you could have done that at the beginning of the season, so it doesn't make sense. And for Max to make it clear that I don't want to go anywhere, I'm staying right here with the Las Vegas Raiders. To me, that just means that he's not going anywhere, right? He's not going to be traded. I think, you know, Maxx Crosby is also that type of guy that he wants to stay with one team for the entirety of his career. And I'm pretty sure he's not going to ever not be a Raider. Like, I'd be surprised. I think if Maxx Crosby plays 14 years, all 14 will be with the Raiders. We'll see what ends up happening. I want to wrap it up with two quick updates that are coming out. These are unfortunate updates. The first lady of Raider Nation, Carroll Davis, has passed away at the age of 93. So rest in peace to Carroll Davis. She was obviously the wife of Al Davis, mother of Mark Davis. She passed away on Friday at the age of 93. George Atkinson also ended up passing away, which is unfortunate. He passed away as well. One of the greatest defensive backs, or one of the greatest safeties, hitter. I looked at some of his stats. He had 30 interceptions, which is wild. I don't know if safeties get 30 interceptions anymore. George Atkinson did. So rest in peace to him. Let me know what you guys think, man. What are your guys' thoughts on some of what we're hearing from the Raiders? Obviously, we just had a bye week. I see all the jokes, right? Oh, the Raiders lost the bye week or whatever. Stuff's not funny anymore, truth be told. But let me know what you guys think, man. What are your guys' thoughts on the Raiders as we kind of go into this second half or this next portion, right, post-bye? I'm going to be honest with you guys, man. Although I love the idea of having the number one overall pick, we're not that type of team. We're going to win 2 games. Like, we're going to end up with the 10th overall pick at the very, very best case scenario. I would much rather just have the Raiders win as many games as you can because we have teams, like, we still play the Broncos twice. And I would love to ruin the Broncos season somehow, right? I would love to be able to do that. And it's not even just the Broncos. You know, you still play a lot of good football teams. And I think at some point you have to learn to win games, right? You got to learn to, as an offensive line, open up run lanes and, you know, impose your will on people. As a group of receivers, you have to learn to separate. And look, the Raiders are bringing in Tyler Lockett. That means they're not looking to quit this season. They're looking forward to this next half, and they're looking forward to winning football games. And again, I think just going on a run, having a little bit of momentum, it could actually benefit the Raiders going into this next half of the season. So we'll see what ends up happening, man. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys had a nice bye week. Thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time with another video.